Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Queen Studios quarter scale statue unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at none other than the Joker based off his appearance in The Dark Knight. But this isn't the standard version, this is the limited edition artist version. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you are down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon, plus the join button for more info on Justin's collection plus the channel membership. Now, I'm usually a third scale statue guy. I have a few quarter scale statues, but I usually shy away from them. This one, though, definitely caught my eye, because number one, it's Heath Ledger as the Joker, and I'm a huge Joker fan, and number two, we have a Hot Toys quarter-scale Joker, but unfortunately, that guy was a bit of a letdown. So I am hoping this statue is going to take its place in the collection. Now, the unboxing experience is something very special. You've got multiple thick cardboard panels that are held on with proper metal door hinges. Then underneath said panels, you've got this big hunk of foam, but it's been flocked, and there are multiple Queen Studios Velcro straps. But front and center, you have a real wooden plaque that has the artist's signature, and you will notice the bottom one is Viper. And of course, we know Viper because he's in charge of the team heading up in art, and they're making their own version of Joker. So I am curious, how is this guy going to look? And does this give us an indication of what the 1/6 scale version will end up looking like? Hopefully this gives you a rough idea, because this is technically the same team that's going to be making the 6 scale figure. Now, as I said in the intro, there are two different versions of this statue. This is the artist edition, they only made 300, and the difference is the hair is actual real sheep wool hair, versus the normal version where it's all sculpted. The outfits, however, the base, the accessories, I believe they're all exactly the same. Now, the reason why it's called Artist Edition versus calling it Limited Edition is because the team, the crew responsible for the prototype, were directly involved with production of the production pieces, which isn't something that I personally have ever seen before. Now, moving on to the display base, it is deceptively simple. What do I mean by that? Well, it presents as though there aren't a ton of details, but when you look closer, you will notice that they are quite nicely hidden. Around back, there is a ton of sculpted in building work, plus there is a Dark Knight logo that kind of looks as though it's this big crack in the front of said building. There is also some purple on the base, which quite nicely hides a very clever hidden bat logo. Around the front, a nice metal plaque that says the Dark Knight trilogy, but as you can see, it comes down to a V taper, a nice point at the bottom. And then on the sides of the base, the purple section swooshes up, just like the sides of the bat logo. It's something that I didn't notice at first, but it just goes to show that even though at first glance it is a simple base, there is a lot more than initially meets the eye. It's also rather heavy. This is a solid hunk of polystone, and the Joker keys in quite securely with two proper metal keys. I do kind of wish there was a way where we could flip the Joker around and have this be the front of the display base. I like the metal plaque, don't get me wrong, but this is much more understated, and it still gets across the same message. It's the same bat logo, but there is a ton more detail here. Now, speaking of detail, up on top of the base, it's a metal grate style flooring. We've seen this kind of thing before, but they've done a really good job here. The sculpt is crisp and clean, you can tell exactly what that's supposed to be. There are washers down in the crevices and some dry brushing of silver and some orange to make it look like it's a proper rusted out dirty floor. Now, the entire base comes together, and as I've said a couple of times, it is a little bit understated. I think that's because they didn't want to rob any attention from the statue itself. And when you zoom out and take a look at the statue as a whole, which, don't worry, we will absolutely be doing, it starts to make sense as one cohesive package. I don't dislike the display base, there could have been more going on, but I think it comes together very nicely. Now, the Joker's shoes are fully sculpted. There is a ton of texture here. There is a ton of weathering in the paint washes. And you do have some proper, real fabric socks. They do look accurate, and they are slightly different to the 3rd scale Joker statue that Queen Studios released previously. Unfortunately, those laces are fully sculpted rather than being fabric attachments. Now, moving up to his pants, they are a little bit more vibrant than I'm used to seeing. Usually the Joker's coat and pants are a more bluish purple. This is a slightly warmer, more saturated purple, but I kind of dig it. He also, of course, has the signature Joker real metal chain. And if you don't want it visible, you could tuck it away. Now, one of the key selling points for me here was that this is the Joker in the grenade pose. You do have a bunch of real metal grenades. They're very nicely sculpted. There are a bunch of different shapes, and they are quite nicely painted. Now, you do have to slot them in individually inside the coat. They are metal, which means they are going to be quite heavy, so they will droop down in the little straps. Do make sure you take your time and read the instructions. The placement isn't explained super obviously, but if you do see how long the strings are, because of course you do want the drawstring to actually be taut, just go from there. Attach it to his thumb first, and then go from the longest, put that one at the bottom, and then get shorter as you go through the various grenades. It might not make sense now in the way I just described it, but trust me, when you get this in hand, it absolutely will. Now, speaking of hands, you do have 2 options here. One with the drawstring for the grenades, and the other with a Joker playing card. My version of this statue only came with 1 card, but the Queen Studios website specifically says switch out hand with miniature poker cards, as in plural. I don't know if some of mine just went walkabout or never made it into the box, but yeah, I only got 1. Now, this isn't Joker without his purple coat, and the coat itself is stunning. It's a great texture. You do have some wires that run along the edges of the front flaps, so they are technically a little bit posable. At this scale, yeah, it can be a little bit tricky to work with a Joker coat if there aren't any wires. But luckily there are, so you can wrap it around the back of its leg to lock it in position, and it becomes a lot more manageable. Now, the purple jacket does have that super vibrant orange lining, and both jackets have real buttons. Luckily, you don't have to do anything up here, so you don't actually have to futz around with those teeny tiny buttons. Now, the green vest underneath is missing the button up top, which is accurate. Now, don't forget, this is a statue wearing a fabric outfit, so you are going to have to futz with it to get it to look as good as possible. Now, I did want to do a super close-up of the texture of the jacket, and hopefully you can make out the weathering. But in pretty much all the seams in the high-traffic areas, there is a nice black wash, so it doesn't look pristine. This is a dirty and grimy jacket for the Clown Prince of Crime, and if you've seen the movie, this look having it not be pristine, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. He also has his tie up top, and I've nicely tucked in the collar of the shirt into the vest, just to make sure everything is stowed away and managed. Now, I personally only have one complaint, and it's how difficult it is to get him to grip onto his lapel. The grenades are metal, the jacket is a nice smooth velvet, there just isn't enough friction. It of course can be done, but you are going to have to spend a little bit of time futzing. Now, moving on to the head sculpt, this is why we are here. Well, it's at least why I am here. It's the focal point, the main attraction for this statue. And I think it delivers. There are currently a lot of Joker statues on the market, so this guy has tons of competition. Where do I rank this statue among the other Joker statues? Well, we will get to that, but it does rank pretty darn highly. They have done a couple of things quite differently though to some of those other pieces. Now I do want to talk about the likeness first. I can absolutely 100% see Heath Ledger in this sculpt. You can also see there is a depth to it. It's not just all stark white, there is skin texture, you can actually make out the skin tone underneath the makeup. The white isn't super chalky, but it's not glossy at the same time. It actually does a great job of looking like makeup on top of skin. The black eye makeup is nice and stark, you can make out his eyebrows up on top, and you can even see a couple of areas where the black has started to run down. The red for his mouth is suitably vibrant, and the scars look nasty, which is exactly what you'd expect from Joker. Now the hair is real rooted hair. They've decided to go with sheep's wool, but interestingly enough, this time it's almost entirely solid. Now I'm pretty sure Queen Studios uses hairspray to keep it in place, and it does that really nicely. It was perfect out of the box. They've also done something else slightly differently. The hair around the back isn't just a stark green, there's a couple of different layers, there's shading to it. However, around the front and at the roots, he does have a couple of strands of blonde hair. Now, Heath's hair was this dusty blonde, and he did put the green paint through it. This, I'm pretty sure, is quite accurate. They have gone potentially a little bit too heavy with the blonde, but at the end of the day, I still really like the way it looks. I understand though, it will be down to personal preference. I'm pretty sure the sculpted version does have a lot more green in the hair, but for me, a little bit of variance is always good. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the Queen Studios Joker on the left and the Hot Toys quarter scale Joker on the right. And that's of course the figure I was hoping to replace with this very statue. And as you can see, the Queen Studios piece is significantly taller. That doesn't really bother me though, considering when we do get the reissue of the Dark Knight Batman on the big gargoyle base, you are going to have some added height, so I think that should more than make up for it. However, if you do have the standard Batman, the original 1.0, I think they match up really nicely. Queen Studios Joker is still taller than Batman, but not by as big of a margin as compared to the Hot Toys Joker. Speaking of which, the Hot Toys Joker has a little bit more of a vibrant purple jacket, and his shoes are huge. I absolutely have no problem whatsoever replacing that figure with this statue in the display. It's a superior Joker from the head sculpt to the proportions of the body, to the color and weathering of the jacket. That was one of the biggest complaints with the Hot Toys piece, was that the jacket was far too clean. Now yes, I am arguing for a statue to replace a figure, which isn't going to make everyone happy. You can't actually pose this guy. Now, you can switch out the hand to be holding the drawstring or the Joker playing card, so there's a little bit of modularity here, but for the most part, yes, it is fixed in one pose. However, in saying that, it is a very iconic pose. If you are going to have one quarter scale Joker in your display and you can only have him in one pose, I don't think anyone would argue that this might just be the one to go for. Now, there is an elephant in the room: the price tag. This guy for a quarter scale statue is rather expensive. It was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, but I decided to pick him up, and I am so darn glad that I did. The fact that he looks as good as he does at this smaller scale with some of the best rooted hair that I have ever seen, yeah, he checks a lot of my boxes. That head sculpt is on the money. The skin texture, the likeness, it actually looks like a shrunk down version of Heath, which is something that I know we've said for a lot of statues and figures over the years, This one might just be the best in quarter scale at least that I have ever seen. Now the blonde hair might not be for everyone, but I think it works pretty darn well for this statue. It adds a little bit of variety and layering to the hair that's normally just depicted as pretty much all green. Now if you wanted to, you can mess around with the hair and tuck away some of the blonde strands, because it is rooted, so you can give it your own styling if you so choose. But at the end of the day, I love this statue. No regrets whatsoever in picking him up. Queen Studios, I am now super excited for your 6-scale Joker. You've given me a ton of confidence. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, hit that subscribe and bell notification icon. Plus, check out the join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Also, a massive thank you to my buddy Slam Collections on Insta, link below, for helping me film this awesome statue. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.